The look behind silence. The garage smelled of oil, metal, and quiet determination. Tools hung neatly along the wall, each in its place, as if they too respected the man working beneath the open hood of the car. Ethan had always been like that, focused, steady, the kind of man who spoke less but did more. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing strong arms marked with faint scars from years of hard work. Every movement he made was precise, practiced. To him, fixing engines wasn't just a job, it was control in a world that often felt unpredictable. Behind him, unnoticed at first, stood a woman. Lena. She had been there for a few minutes already, watching silently. Her long blonde hair fell over her shoulders, and her expression wasn't just curiosity, it was something deeper. Something unsettled. Her eyes followed every movement Ethan made, but her thoughts were far from the engine in front of him. She wasn't supposed to be there. The garage wasn't a place for customers to wander freely, yet she had walked in like she belonged, like she had a reason beyond a simple car repair. A yellow arrow sign outside pointed people toward the waiting area, but Lena had ignored it. Instead, she chose to watch him. "Can I help you?" Ethan finally said without turning around. His voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut through the silence. Lena hesitated for a moment before stepping closer. I was told you're the best mechanic here." Ethan wiped his hands with a cloth and turned slightly, just enough to glance at her. His eyes met hers for only a second, but that second felt longer than it should have. "I fix cars," he replied simply. That's it. Something about his tone made it clear, he wasn't interested in small talk. But Lena didn't leave. Instead, she folded her arms lightly, as if gathering courage. "And people?" she asked quietly. That made Ethan pause. Now he turned fully. Their eyes locked again, and this time, neither of them looked away. "I don't fix people," he said firmly. A faint smile appeared on Lena's lips, but it wasn't a happy one. It was the kind of smile people wear when they're hiding something heavy. "That's what I thought," she murmured. For a moment, silence filled the garage again. The ticking sound of the cooling engine echoed between them. Ethan studied her now. She didn't look like someone who belonged in a place like this. Her clothes were too clean, too polished. But her eyes told a different story. There was tension there. Fear, maybe. Or regret. "Where's your car?" he asked. Lena glanced toward the entrance, then back at him. "Outside." "Keys." She didn't move. Instead, she took another step closer. "I didn't come here for the car," she admitted. That was enough to put Ethan on edge. He set the cloth down slowly. "Then you should leave." But Lena shook her head. "I can't." Her voice cracked slightly, and that small break in her tone changed everything. Ethan noticed it. He always noticed things like that. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice lower now. Lena swallowed hard, as if the words were stuck in her throat. "I think someone is following me." The air shifted. Suddenly, the garage didn't feel as ordinary anymore. Ethan's expression didn't change much, but something in his eyes sharpened. He stepped past her and looked toward the open garage door. The street outside seemed normal, cars passing, people walking, nothing unusual. But he knew better. Sometimes, trouble didn't announce itself. It waited. "How long?" he asked without looking at her. "A few days," Lena replied. "Maybe longer. I wasn't sure at first, but now," she hesitated. "Now I'm certain." Ethan turned back to her slowly. "And you came here, why?" Lena met his gaze again. "Because someone told me," she said softly, "that if I ever got into real trouble, I should find you." That made Ethan freeze. For the first time, real emotion crossed his face. "Who told you that?" he asked. Lena's lips parted slightly. But before she could answer, a car suddenly stopped outside the garage. Both of them turned at the same time. The engine didn't shut off. It just idled there, waiting. And in that moment, Ethan knew. This wasn't going to be just another day at the garage. The engine that shouldn't be running. The low hum of the car outside cut through the air like a warning. Ethan didn't rush, but his entire posture changed. His shoulders stiffened slightly, and his eyes narrowed as he stepped closer to the garage entrance. Lena stayed where she was, her heartbeat loud in her ears. The car hadn't moved. It just sat there, engine running. Waiting. "Do you know that car?" Ethan asked quietly, his gaze fixed outside. Lena swallowed. "I've seen it before," she whispered. Not the same one maybe, but like it. Always nearby. Ethan nodded once. That was enough. He reached over and casually flipped the switch near the wall. The loud hum of a machine filled the garage as an old radio crackled to life, masking their voices. Listen carefully, he said under his breath. Don't panic. Don't look scared. Just walk toward that tool cabinet and stay behind it. What about you? Lena asked, her voice barely steady. I'll handle it. There was something in the way he said it, calm, controlled, that made her obey without another question. She moved slowly, trying to appear normal, but her hands trembled slightly. She positioned herself behind the tall metal cabinet, partially hidden but still able to see. Ethan, meanwhile, walked straight out of the garage. The sunlight hit him as he stepped onto the concrete driveway. He wiped his hands again with the cloth, as if nothing was wrong, as if this was just another customer arriving. The car outside was dark, tinted windows, engine still running. Ethan approached it cautiously, stopping a few feet away. Garage is open, he called out casually. If you need something, you can pull in. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the driver's window rolled down halfway. A man sat inside, his face partly hidden by shadows and sunglasses. He didn't look like someone who needed car repairs. I'm just looking, the man said. His voice was flat. Ethan gave a small nod. Then you're blocking my entrance. Another pause. The man's fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel. Then his gaze shifted, just slightly, past Ethan, toward the inside of the garage. Toward Lena. Ethan noticed. And that's when things became real. She's not your problem, Ethan said, his tone firmer now. The man smirked faintly. You don't even know who she is. Don't need to. The air tightened between them. For a moment, it felt like something could snap. Then, unexpectedly, the man chuckled. You always this protective? He asked. Ethan didn't respond. Another second passed. Then the window rolled back up. The car stayed still. Then slowly, smoothly, it pulled away from the garage and disappeared down the street. Silence followed. But it wasn't relief. It was the kind of silence that comes before something worse. Ethan stood there for a few seconds longer, watching the road carefully. Only when the car was completely gone did he turn back inside. Lena stepped out from behind the cabinet immediately. You saw him, right? She said quickly. That's exactly what I mean. They just watch, they don't. Stop, Ethan interrupted gently. She froze. They found you faster than I expected, he said. Lena's face went pale. What do you mean they? Ethan walked past her, closing the garage door halfway. The outside light dimmed, leaving the space feeling more enclosed, safer, but also more intense. He turned to face her again. Start talking, he said. Everything. No lies. Lena hesitated, but only for a second. Then it all came rushing out. I used to work for a company, she began, her voice shaky. Not a normal one. They deal with data, private contracts, powerful clients. I didn't ask questions at first. I just did my job. Ethan listened silently. But a few weeks ago, she continued, I found something I wasn't supposed to see. Files, names, transactions that didn't make sense. Illegal ones. Ethan crossed his arms. And you took something, he guessed. Lena looked down. Yes. That confirmed it. Ethan exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. You didn't just bring trouble to my garage, he said quietly. You brought a storm. I didn't know where else to go. Lena said, her voice breaking again. And I remembered what he told me. Ethan's eyes sharpened. Who? He asked again. This time, Lena didn't hesitate. Your brother. The words hit like a shockwave. Ethan froze completely. For a moment, the past, something he had buried deep, came rushing back. That's not possible, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Lena looked at him, eyes filled with urgency. He said if anything ever went wrong, I should find you. That you'd know what to do. Ethan stared at her, his jaw tightening. My brother is dead, he said. Silence. Lena shook her head slowly. No, she whispered. He's not. And just like that, everything Ethan thought he knew started to fall apart. The truth that refused to stay buried. No, she whispered. He's not. The words hung in the air like a spark in a room full of fuel. Ethan didn't move. For years, he had buried that part of his life, locked it away with anger, grief, and unanswered questions. His brother wasn't just gone, he was lost. Official reports, closed cases, a funeral without a body, it had all forced Ethan to accept something that never truly made sense. And now this woman stood in front of him, tearing it all open again. "You don't get to say that," Ethan said, his voice tight. "Not without proof." Lena quickly reached into her bag, her hands shaking as she pulled out a small, worn envelope. It looked old, creased at the edges, like it had been opened and closed too many times. "He gave me this," she said. "Told me to never open it unless something went wrong." Ethan stared at it. "Then why is it open?" he asked. "Because something did go wrong," she replied. Slowly, she stepped forward and handed it to him. Ethan hesitated for just a second, then took it. The moment his fingers touched the paper, something shifted inside him. It wasn't just fear, it was recognition. The handwriting on the front, it was familiar. Too familiar. His name, written exactly the way his brother used to write it. Ethan. His grip tightened slightly as he opened the envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a small metallic object that slipped into his palm. A key. Not an ordinary one. It was engraved with a number, 17. Ethan unfolded the paper. His eyes moved quickly across the lines, and then stopped. His breathing changed. Lena watched closely. "What does it say?" For a moment, Ethan didn't answer. Then, slowly, he read aloud. "If you're reading this, it means I was right, and they're already watching. Don't trust anyone, not even the ones who seem clean. The truth isn't in the files, it's in locker 17. And Ethan, if she found you, it means you're already in this deeper than you think." Silence filled the garage again. But this time, it was heavier. More dangerous. Ethan lowered the paper, his mind racing. This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "He was declared dead. I saw the reports." Maybe they wanted you to believe that," Lena said quietly. Ethan looked at her sharply. "You said you found files," he said. "What kind of files?" "Transactions, hidden accounts, but also personnel records," Lena replied. "People who were marked as inactive, but still showing activity." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Ghosts," he said under his breath. Exactly. The realization hit them both at the same time. If Lena was telling the truth, then Ethan's brother wasn't just alive. He had been hiding. Or worse, forced to disappear. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed from the back of the garage. Both of them froze. "That wasn't outside," Lena whispered. Ethan's eyes moved toward the rear door. Someone was inside. Without a word, Ethan folded the letter and slipped it into his pocket. He gestured for Lena to stay behind him. "Don't make a sound," he said softly. Another noise. Closer this time. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Whoever it was, they weren't just breaking in. They were searching. Ethan reached for a heavy wrench on the nearby table, gripping it tightly. His movements were silent, controlled. The footsteps stopped. Right behind the storage room door. Lena held her breath. Ethan stepped forward. One step. Two. Then, the door burst open. A man rushed out. But Ethan reacted instantly, grabbing him and slamming him against the wall. The wrench pressed against the man's shoulder, ready to strike. "Who sent you?" Ethan growled. The man winced, raising his hands quickly. Wait, I'm not with them." "Then you picked the wrong place to sneak into," Ethan snapped. The man's eyes darted between Ethan and Lena. Then he said something that made everything stop. "I know about locker 17. Ethan's grip tightened. "How?" he demanded. The man swallowed hard. "Because," he said, breathing heavily, "I was there the night your brother disappeared." Silence. Pure, electric silence. Ethan slowly lowered the wrench, but his eyes were more dangerous than ever. "Start talking," he said. And just like that, the truth was no longer a mystery. It was a door, and they were about to open it. Locker 17. The garage felt smaller now. Not because of the space, but because of the truth pressing in from every side. Ethan didn't take his eyes off the man he had pinned against the wall. "You've got one chance," he said coldly. "Talk." The man nodded quickly, still catching his breath. "My name is Daniel. I used to work security, for the same organization she mentioned." Lena stepped closer, her fear now mixed with urgency. "You were inside." Daniel nodded. "Yes. And I saw things I wasn't supposed to. Just like you." He looked at Ethan. "Your brother, he wasn't one of them. He was trying to expose them." Ethan's grip loosened slightly. What happened that night? He asked. Daniel swallowed. They found out he was leaking information. There was chaos, alarms, people running. But your brother, he didn't run. He went to locker 17 before they could catch him. Ethan pulled the small key from his pocket, staring at the engraved number. This? He asked. Daniel nodded again. That locker holds everything. Evidence. Names. Proof strong enough to destroy them. But they never found the key, which means they never got inside. Lena's eyes widened. So he hid it, and disappeared. Or escaped, Daniel said quietly. Hope flickered in Ethan's chest, but it came with danger. Where is this locker? Ethan demanded. Daniel hesitated for a second. An old train station on the edge of the city. Abandoned now. Underground storage units. Locker 17 is still there, if they haven't found it yet. Ethan didn't waste another second. We're going, he said. The night wrapped around them as they reached the abandoned station. Broken lights flickered faintly, and the wind howled through the empty structure like a warning. Lena stayed close behind Ethan, while Daniel led the way down a set of cracked concrete stairs. Every step echoed. Every shadow felt alive. Finally, they reached a long hallway lined with old metal lockers. Dust covered everything, but one number stood out clearly. 17. Ethan stepped forward slowly, the key heavy in his hand. This is it, Lena whispered. For a moment, he hesitated. Years of pain, questions, anger, all leading to this. Then, he inserted the key. It clicked. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Ethan opened the locker. Inside was a small metal box. Nothing else. He pulled it out carefully and opened it. Files, drives, photos, evidence. Enough to expose everything Lena had discovered, and more. And on top of it all, a final note. Ethan unfolded it with steady hands. I knew you'd come. His breath caught. It was his brother's writing. If you're reading this, it means I made it out, but I couldn't come back. Not yet. They're bigger than we thought. But this is how we end it. Trust her. And Ethan, don't live in the past. Finish what I started. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. Relief, pain, pride, all at once. He's alive, Lena whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah. Then he looked at the evidence in his hands. No more running, he said. Weeks later, the truth exploded across the world. The organization fell. Names were exposed. Powerful people were brought down. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel. Peace. The garage was open again. The same smell of oil and metal filled the air, but everything was different now. Lena stood near the entrance, watching Ethan work on another car. This time, she wasn't afraid. You still don't fix people? She asked with a small smile. Ethan glanced at her, then smirked slightly. No, he said, but sometimes, I help them fix things themselves. Lena nodded. And for the first time since this all began, she believed it. Moral of the story. The truth may hide in the shadows, but it never disappears. Facing it takes courage, but only by confronting the past can we truly move forward.